Welcome everybody to Rad Pod and Chill. I'm Heidi Kuda and I'm here with Jim Stewartson and High Fidelity. And I'm so glad you guys are joining us tonight. We just finished the State of the Union. We're going to be talking a bit about that. Jim, you go first.
I've had lots of times where I'm happy to be critical of the president of the
Sure.
government. This is not one of those times. Joe Biden fucking wiped the floor with that place in a way that I was honestly just like surprised about. He didn't hit all of the things that I wanted him to hit. I
Sure.
wrote a whole article about all the stuff I want him to hit because I think it's worth talking about that
We
because
will.
I think there is another side to it. But as an American citizen, as somebody who wanted to see a fucking leader stand up and tell Americans that we're not going to just roll over for fat Hitler and the idiots, the one who was behind him smirking the entire time, and all these assholes like Marjorie with their fucking hat on, like he just clowned them all.
Yeah,
He was like hi-fi up there, man. He was
Yeah.
just fucking with them the whole time. It was honestly glorious, and the speech was well written, and he called out the fucking cult members on the court.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
the same cult, you
Yeah.
motherfuckers down there,
Yeah.
you right there, you suck.
Justices.
Which is
Yeah.
which is not the thing I've ever seen before. That's for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was I don't mean to be overly giddy because it is not who I am in my natural habitat. But it was a fucking really good speech. I would say a historic one, and they're gonna have a hard time coming at this. They are.
My theme is what endures. That was such beautiful poetic writing. First of all, he did what I dreamed that he would do, and he came out swinging hard against Vladimir fucking Putin. And that was good, and that was strong, and that was very important. And when he brought in FDR and how this is one of those moments, this is one of those moments. And he let our allies know which side of this moment he stood on. He stood on the side of democracy, our allies, and he shamed the GOP cult members. He made them look like trash. And he did engage in some light trolling, as one of our friends said. It was actually beast mode. So I'll go with that. But I'm not going to lie, I shed a few tears at the beginning because, again, we fight on the front lines of the information war. I repurposed the letter that we wrote to him about what we would like him to say about the information war. But I am so proud of him for standing up to not only the trash members of the GOP who make us look so bad on the world stage, but for standing up to Vladimir Putin. That was really important and well done. And also, as a woman, can I just say, when Jason Stanley talks about the harsh train coming down the tracks for women's rights, Joe Biden said, I'm your guy. Ladies, I'm not going to let them hurt you. In fact, I will reverse what they've done. So as a woman, I'm very proud he's my president, and I look very forward to casting my ballot for him. High five.
Well, I was just thinking back to when we was talking about, I forget which guest it was, but they were talking about MAGA is nothing but destruction. They don't want to build anything. They don't want to create anything.
Jason Stanley and yes, somebody else. Yes, yeah.
Well, here's what Biden has to say to them.
We can do big things.
We can do big things.
Yeah. Yeah, we can make things, not destroy things. Right before the State of the Union, I just decided to start posting what I'd learned. I've been investigating Mike Johnson, as you know, and the crazy tentacles to all bad things that this man is associated with when it relates to organizations that have long histories of sexual assaults, or being the dean of a law school that never opened, whose namesake had long history of sexual assaults with young men, in fact, out of court settlements, and all of this documented. You guys know I follow the court documents, the court cases, the settlements, and it's like he's right there in the middle of all of it. And that not adopted son of his that he met at a ministry that has so many documented cases of sexual assault, behaviors and settlements. And wherever he is, there's something bad related to sexual abuse and or virulently anti-gay movements, conversion therapy, all of that. So I'm saying, when I looked at his face sitting there not getting onto, off his feet, I was like, which mice is it, Mike? Is it the Russian money you took from the guy who funds Maria Butina, NRA spies, munitions factories? Is it Compromat? Whatever it is, man, come clean, because it's important. So anyway,
I think Mike Justin's got a lot of. I don't know if you want to even call it ideology. I think dude's literally in a cult, right?
yeah,
Like he has been. I mean, you just look at him. Like his hands were like latched to the. Because he'd been told that he had in his head, I can't clap no matter what, even if I want to clap. Like he's even after he became speaker, he's gotten more and more sort of restricted in the stuff he says, because he gets, he expressed at one point some sympathy for Ukraine and said, hey, we of course we're going to fund them, and then got the word from somewhere that oh boy, you misunderstand where the red line is, son. And so we're seeing, it's yet another just android who has no ideas of his own, but feels that he's important in some sort of bigger war. Like I think he's one of these people who genuinely believes this dominionist shit.
Yes.
Where he believes that the Christian church is destined to take over the world, so that, and this is important, the fucking end times can come. Right? The winning scenario for these fucking maniacs is global apocalypse, so that a few people who happen to believe in a certain sky god and a certain book based on this certain sky god get to get pulled up into space. And that's why he's doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin, because he believes that shit, and he thinks that the people that are pulling his strings are the messengers of God. It's just like Amy Coney Barrett, and I think it's important just to, speaking of one of the people that the fucking president was addressing directly, Amy Coney Barrett, if you're not aware, is in a cult called People of Praise, which is a charismatic Christian cult, which charismatic Christianity is just like, we're Christian, but we're going to throw a bunch of really fucking weird shit on top of it and still call it Christian. Anyway, it's a misogyny cult, apocalyptic and all that, but it's literally based on Gilead. Yeah. They have handmaids. She's a handmaid. She has sworn her life to men, and specifically 5 men. And you might not know this. Amy Coney Barrett does not, by her religion, follow the Constitution. She follows the dictates of 5 old white guys called coordinators with a capital C. And they're the ones that Amy Coney Barrett follows. Just like whoever the dickheads in the New Apostolic Reformation, or whoever is handling Mike Johnson, just like he believes whoever he believes.
Well,
These people who are in cults and beholden to institutions and ideas that are not the United States of America should not be allowed in our government.
no, they're anti-government agents trying to hand our country over to, destroy us on the international stage, and very, very dangerous. And speaking of Amy, if you've ever read any of the writings of her father, it's bone chilling. He too was in a cult. He was in the cult of fossil fuel and exec shell, but also the type of Christianity that you're talking about. He has some writings on it where I was looking at a post that he made and my jaw was dropping. It was bone chilling stuff. And I bring it up because Mike Johnson too is a very cynical production of the Council for National Policy. It was Tony Perkins, another virulently anti-gay, anti-human rights, actor, bad actor, and all of this. It was Tony Perkins who put him on the board, and apparently Tony was his mentor, which is really scary. Put him as the dean of this Southern Baptist law school that never opened because, the namesake, a Southern Baptist judge, a leader of the Southern Baptist community, a judge in Texas, had so many sexual assault cases against him. It was absolutely bananas. And it's and you're going to be the dean of this law school that never opens when these cases, and you're a lawyer, and these cases are already going on while this is occurring. So it's ugly stuff. And I sat there looking at him thinking, he said, if you want to know about me, just read the Bible. And I was thinking, man, it's never too late to ask for redemption, and do it sooner than later, because if he continues to be a puppet for these Christian nationalists that he's involved in, he will be responsible potentially for hundreds of thousands of unnecessary deaths in Ukraine. So it's serious stuff. It's all really serious.
I have a question. I have a question. Is there a part in the Bible that talks about running a school where the headmasters sexually assault the students? Is that in the Bible? I just wondered.
No, I don't believe so. But it's this level scary stuff that's in this man's orbit. So yes, Jim.
That's not one of the books, Deuteronomy.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
No,
I don't know any
school.
But I was thinking so much because I've listened now, and I'm going to keep listening to our most recent interview with Stephen Douglas of Distant Folklore and Decoding Trolls. And I'm glad somebody's actually attempting this work. And I was thinking so much about what the extremists do and what Trump does is tell these stories. And we talked about the importance of narrative and narrative warfare. Well, I was very happy to hear Joe Biden do some countering of Distant Folklore tonight by telling his story, and his story about where he came from and how he became involved in politics. And he basically just reminded people that he's a legend, and what he's done for our country multiple times has been he's engaged in firsts. And so I'm proud. I'm proud in this moment about what endures.
The stories thing is important in a lot of different ways. I posted a clip of an Israeli author, Yuval Noah Harari, who happens to be Mike Flynn's second favorite scapegoat after Barack Obama, because
wow.
He's a Jewish guy, and he has lots of big ideas. He's a futurist and a historian at the same time, and he's a brilliant guy. Anyway, he made a really important point about modern warfare, and it's not just modern warfare, but increasingly defined in modern warfare, is that wars are not about territory and food anymore, right? As he pointed out himself, who's lived there, that there's plenty of food and territory for Palestinians and Israelis to live over there. The war is over the different stories that people have been told about the territory, right?
Wow. Yeah.
No longer a battle over anything other than whose story is going to be believed by more people. It becomes a literal war for the mind as opposed to a war over land. And I think that's a really important point, and
Totally.
not just to think about offensively, but defensively, right? How do they hack us?
Mm-hmm.
Another line that he says, and it's extremely true: man is a storytelling animal.
Mm-hmm.
We are storytelling animals, and I forgive me if I said this before, but the first story, I can tell you this first story right now. You ready? There was one Cro-Magnon dude to another Cro-Magnon dude, and he was jumping up and down, telling a story about how there's a huge fucking saber-toothed tiger behind the rock, and you better fucking run now, right? And he's drawing in the sand, and he's doing whatever the fuck he's doing to tell a story, right? And it creates a it's almost like a meme. You can think of it in your head. It gives you a set of rules that you can follow, in a narrative. And you think, and I'll land my plane. Here's another story. I'm 5 years old. I touch the fucking stove and I get this burn that I still have on my hand right here. Right? That's a fucking story that you're going to remember. Right? And every single time you see something hot, that story is going to come up, right? That is how human beings are, how we learn. It's a beautiful thing. It can, it creates our imagination and creativity and all of these things, but it can also be hacked.
Yes.
Once you control the stories around somebody, you control their mind. You control who they are.
Well, and that is why we interviewed Stephen regarding distant folklore, because there he was as a diplomat and a cultural archaeologist and an international lawyer on a bridge in Ukraine, a decade ago, and not realizing that he was actually somebody who was playing a role in the middle of what he calls stealth genocide. And he heard these stories coming over the bridge from the Russian side, all coordinated. Then he saw those same stories on Facebook, all coordinated, and he started to see this very folkloric element. And what I love is that if you listen to our hour-long interview with him, you will find out that all of this has been designed to take away human rights and to take away the post-World War II order. And I'm going to be writing about this tonight. He found a huge, huge clue, an archaeological clue, in a Pat Buchanan article called Putin's Paleoconservative Moment. And oh my God, I just read it today, just like when I was reading Amy Coney Barrett's Dad. Jaw dropped. I was like, oh my God, here he is standing for Putin over morality. And as Stephen Douglas from Distant Folklore taught us, the culture wars were always a lie. It was always narrative warfare. They made it the fuck up. And boy, I'm going to have a good time informing my readers and our viewers about that. Jim,
That's
you knew about that. Like, you knew about that.
Yeah. Well, Pat Buchanan is the original paleoconservative. Maybe not the original, but
that was more William Lind, right?
Well, yes, but William Lind, they're all sort of around the same time, the late 80s, Reagan era kind of thing. And anyway, paleoconservatives also include, for example, Nick Fuentes calls himself a paleoconservative.
Perfect.
Paleoconservatives believe that we need to go back to like before the revolutionary. We need to have women can't vote. Like seriously, like
No, I
it's
know.
only white people. Like it's hardcore white ethno state,
Wow.
male dominated. Yes, we want to control the world because we
Right.
have little wieners and we just. I mean, really, it's so fucked up. Now here's the other thing. William Lind is an important character, absolutely paleoconservative. Now, why is William Lind important? Briefly, Mike Flynn has a book called Fifth Generation Warfare because there have been 5 generations, he says. We're 5 generations. No, that's not really a thing. It's not in doctrine. Nobody, it's not. There's not even that much sort of theory about it, except by William Lind, who wrote about 4th generation war.
Hmm.
And Mike Flynn was like, "Oh, I like this idea. I'm gonna make it turn it up to 11 and call it 5th generation warfare." Anyway, here's what 4th generation warfare is about, according to paleoconservative William Lind. It is about overthrowing liberal democracies through identity politics, psychological warfare, and terrorism.
Hmm.
That's what it's about. It is about weaponizing hatred, weaponizing misogyny, weaponizing bigotry, anti-gay, all of those things, and creating violent cells of identity groups.
Wow.
It's not his idea was not about, it's Missouri and Kentucky versus another
Yeah.
state. It's about what Eric Prince said the other day, by the way, which is the rurals coming after the cities, right? And what Eric Prince said 3 days ago was, "You city folk better watch out because you don't have that much food in there, and we got all the guns." It was like,
Wow. That's
literally,
scary.
like he
That's
was asked,
scary.
"Do you think there will be a civil war?" And he said, "Well, it won't be like the last
Wow.
one, but yeah, it'll be the rurals going after the city folks."
Wow.
And this is the ultimate William Lind's 4th generation warfare scenario, is my
Got it.
point, which is exactly what Mike Flynn has been doing in America for 8 years. And before Mike Flynn, who was doing it? Alexander Dugin.
Yeah.
Alexander Dugin's entire project in the United States has been to meet with people like Richard Spencer and Chuck Johnson and these fucking Nazis, and to teach them how to build these subversive, violent identity groups inside of the country.
Wow.
And they use this along with William Lind's 4th generation warfare. Then Mike Flynn just wrote it all down like it was his idea, said, "Oh, there's some AI or something and uniparty, I don't fucking know," but it's just the same shit. It's the same shit that William Lind wrote down 33 years ago, I think, is when he started writing down 4th generation warfare stuff. Last thing, and I'll lay my point. William Lind is also the guy who helped popularize cultural Marxism. You may have heard of cultural Marxism. You may not have any fucking idea what cultural Marxism is because it's ridiculous. It's this idea that the Frankfurt School in the 30s, there were a bunch of liberals got together with like Karl Marx in their brains and like plotted a plan to overthrow the world with liberal ideas, right? Oh, and it happens to be that they're all Jews, by the way. And so cultural Marxism is a way of saying Jewish communist, which happens to be the exact scapegoat of who? Adolf
Mm-hmm.
fucking Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people who we are dealing with here. William Lind, people like Jack Singlaub, Mike
Mm-hmm.
Flynn. These fucking people think the wrong side won World War II.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
do.
I know.
The reason why they're going after, why it's always a communist, is because that's who Hitler was going after.
Mm-hmm.
They believe in their little hearts, in their little McCarthy hearts, that the commies are coming back, and that all of us need to be wrapped up and put in the gulag.
I have something to say, but Hi-Fi's chomping at the bit over here. So what you got to say, High Fidelity?
Well, before we get too far away from William Lind and fourth generation warfare, I have to talk about how smart the people in our chat are, because Gal Suburban brought up the point that William Lind was meeting with Donald Trump in 2016.
Yeah. Well,
So, yeah.
Gal's amazing. What I wanted to say is what we are experiencing. What we are experiencing is not random chaos. This is very well coordinated. We've identified the links between these paleo conservatives and the Kremlin. And I encourage everybody to read Pat Buchanan's Putin's paleo conservative moment, because it's an important data point, as Hi-Fi would say, in all of this fuckery. But I just wanted to say, speaking of closeted gay men, I think it's really important that we look at Roy Cohn's role in this, because Roy Cohn was supposed to be the anti-communist. Well, was he really? What was he, right? He was somebody who was so virulently anti-gay, and yet he was a gay man. And he also was the mentor for Roger Stone and Donald Trump, and he also was the mob lawyer for all of the mob bosses of the 5 boroughs. But he also played a very significant dark role in history, multiple, many, innumerable. He brought Rupert Murdoch to the attention of Ronald Reagan. He brought him into the Oval Office. There's a photo of Roy Cohn introducing Murdoch and Reagan. And with all the forensic spelunking that we do, it's just worth bringing that point up, because as Jim threaded today, even at 92, the fuckery with Murdoch continues back to Moscow.
Yes, in case people weren't aware, please congratulate his Emperor Palpatine, moly, fucking shriveled creature, is on his 6th marriage. He is betrothed. He's actually betrothed to at least his 7th, because he was betrothed to somebody else.
He was betrothed to somebody else. Yeah, she
like
pulled out
3 fucking weeks ago.
Yeah, she pulled out.
And if you see a picture of them together, it's hard to imagine why. Anyway, so he's getting married to Elena Zhukova. Let's see if I can remember this from just today.
Let's see if you got it, Jim.
Who Rupert met at Wendy Deng's party. Wendy Deng used to be Vladimir Putin's girlfriend, and also BFFs with Javanka, right? Okay. So Rupert, for some reason, is still in touch with his Russian ex-wife, and meets Elena Zhukova, who is a Russian American scientist born in Russia, now American theoretically, who used to be, before Rupert, married to a Russian-born billionaire who lived in Britain. Okay.
So, not just anyone. You're talking about Abramovich, right?
No, not yet. I'm not there yet. No,
okay.
she's married. to a Russian billionaire who lived in Britain.
Uh,
Her daughter was married to Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich.
which ties
One of
back to
the
Mike Johnson.
just most silly oligarchs. Just absolutely criminal mafia up to the
One of the
these.
wealthiest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anywho, quite a lineup.
Yeah, we need some Venn
the world.
diagrams, concentric circles, all those things.
Reality has gotten so bizarre that I would suggest, honestly, that fiction will help people understand what is occurring.
Mhm.
And specifically in this situation, William Gibson wrote a book called The Peripheral, and there's a series. But in it, he defines the kleptocrat class.
Mm.
And the kleptocrat class, say that 5 times fast. They are a bunch of, I know, right?
I can't.
They are a bunch of criminals, and a lot of them are descended from Russian mobsters, and it gives you a window into the start of what is occurring now, and if we allow it to progress, just one possible dystopian future that lies ahead of us. So,
or you just read fucking Handmaid's Tale, or
Yeah.
you could
that
just,
too.
or you could go to rural Russia.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
see-
no thanks.
This
That,
goes.
They don't have
I
to.
mean, I just need to say one thing. Like, if you really look hard, and I'm sorry to say this, we're getting turned into Russia.
I know.
Right? Go to
Yeah.
Tennessee and go talk to the people who, just like Vladimir Putin did in Russia, banned pride flags.
Yeah. Yeah.
Made it fucking illegal. It might be within a certain radius of a school or something, but they legislated against pride flags.
Yeah.
In Tennessee, they banned same-sex marriages.
Yeah.
Which is also what Vladimir Putin did in 2020. Like, we're literally getting pulled into this weird, like, Orthodox Christian, like semi Gilead, which is making us look like our enemy.
Well, yeah. And I go back to what Wes Clark Jr.'s father said, former head of NATO, in 2016 when Trump won, that we're going to become like Russia, and we're watching it happen. And as Jason Stanley said on RadPod last week, when you have the gay community, members of the gay community fleeing states, that is never a good sign. And that is what we actually have. We have literally like LGBTQ flight out of states. That is not a good sign.
You know who else is going to leave these states that think they're going to? Women
and educators. Yeah.
But like, who, like, why would any young woman who wants to have a normal life stay in a state where if she gets pregnant for whatever reason, and like that she's trapped? Like, who the fuck wants to live in that in that place?
Not just that.
I know there's going to be the point being that these laws are going to drive the people out of the places that these people think, and it's gonna hollow them out, and it's what they're hoping for is to make the red states much worse, right?
Well, yeah.
To make them because it's not even about controlling the libs so much, right? It's about making the lives of the people, that they need to be radicalized, and to vote against their own interests, right?
Right.
It's those
Right.
people.
And it's also electoral college strategy. It's a lot of things, but you are so right, Jim, to bring that point up, because right now controlling women is gathering the GOP their big base. That is from Jason Stanley. So the Democratic Party has to be very clear that the Republican Party is returning to patriarchy as a mainstay. And that is something that all women in America need to know, no matter what party affiliation, or if you're not even interested in politics, this all affects you. That super harsh train that's coming down the tracks toward women's rights. And so if patriarchy is what they're utilizing, and that is so 100 years ago, like all of this sounds so fascist, because it is.
The thing is, it's not even fascist. It's like old. It's like they're like, here, put these wigs on thy head, and we shall prance around as if we're in the 17th century. The
Pre-fascist.
reality is so strong. They don't even understand the implications at this point. And that's the, I see it all the time. I'm everybody's favorite lid to beat up on, but I like it because it shows me what it shows me is where their triggers are, and what sort of what is their thought terminating cliche at the moment.
Right.
And
Yes.
this is actually a very, very powerful tool, and I don't recommend it to anyone, because it means we have to get abused thousands of times. But when thousands of times somebody says, Ukraine flag in bio, disregard opinion,
Yeah.
you know that there's a massive fucking psyop
Yeah.
going on in the world to
Yeah.
drive people to all say the same exact thing. It's
Right.
not even that they're against, funding Ukraine for whatever reason, which no one has ever been able to articulate, ever.
It's distant folklore.
Yes, exactly. It's just it's a literally programming. They see the flag, and one of a set of appropriate responses is generated.
Right.
It's not it is no longer with people like that. When these topics come up, it's no longer something that they can even think about anymore. And again, I don't recommend my
your tactic.
my way of studying of gathering data to people, but you can just go to one of my friends and see for yourself.
Yeah, well done. So we have some clips. Can you guys stick around? Because if we go a little bit late, I'd like to show some of the highlights from our interview on decoding trolls.
20 minutes. I don't know what you're worried about. Let's go.
Well, because I had Hi-Fi cut like 4 clips, because it's dense stuff, but it's just so important.
Yeah. I mean, let's.
So one of them short.
We got a couple. Let's get a few clips.
Okay.
We got time.
Okay.
Hi-Fi.
Another of the manner, the energy in Russian, and all of this paleo conservative disinfolklore is a misogyny. So I call the CCP, Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, as distinct from the ancient culture of Iran, and MAGA and Brexit. These are the axis of misogyny. And if we see that energy in these memes, and again, it goes back to the international conventions on banning discrimination on the grounds of sex, and banning discrimination on the grounds of gender identity or sexual preference or politics. This is international law, certainly in terms of sex, and political beliefs. And what they're trying to do is discriminate against, for instance, half our population, which are women, and to create this, I mean, this what they call the handmaid's tale situation. And so that that for me again is, if you pick up that energy in any meme, then you probably know you're being trolled. So even if you might feel whatever reason, because you know someone for whatever reason sympathetic or empathetic to the story, if you're picking up this manner of misogyny from it, it's part of it. And what I noticed with the Pat Buchanan thing is, because the question I was wondering was, what ties all of these oligarchs together? Because it's more than compromat, meaning, you know, they've got pictures in the shower or something, but the compromat, and this is the brilliant idea I got from Peter Jukes from Byline Times, where actually the compromise, what your vulnerability is, you want power. You want your workers, no restrictions on your workers. You want to build a Handmaid's Tale place.
You're a sociopath.
And
Yeah.
well, it
mean,
could be
in
that,
short,
but
right?
Ideologically and because of that, they're susceptible to manipulation and intra-manipulation by themselves. And
Yes.
that's what's powering it. So if we see it as they are ideologically at one with each other, and so it's not just an accidental coalition. And if we can understand that, and that's what I saw with Pat Buchanan in Putin's paleo-conservative moment, I sensed, I could see the puppet strings. And now since then, I looked into it a lot. There's a whole body of academic scholarship which has, lo and behold, concluded there is no such cultural war.
I had to go with that full clip because it is so rich. Jim, your response.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with him. I mean, it is the misogyny is the easiest way to split the human species, because it's got this convenient thing where half and half, right? Like if you're gonna have a big fight, like, you know, like pit half the people against the other half, right? Or you pit some huge overwhelming force against a tiny little group of people who didn't do shit but
Yeah.
are very convenient to scapegoat.
Yeah.
You know, so you get the entire population razzed up by you know, restricting women's rights, by, you know, increasing this idea of the alpha male, which is by no stretch of the imagination a MAGA thing. That goes way back,
Way back.
right?
Yeah.
You know, it is always the way that, you know, these sort of movements get going. I will make one observation I've made before, but I think it's important. All of the you know, psychological warfare, the sort of roots of it, you know, how if you trace it back, and you know, the doctor is doing it one way, but if you just trace it back chronologically, look at where the memes and the ideas came from, for QAnon, for Pizzagate. Why was Pizzagate called Pizzagate? Because it came from Gamergate.
Yeah.
Because it came from a misogynistic cult.
Yeah.
This was an entire cult of people that most people are aware, but in case you weren't, an entire cult of people who were just there to be sadistic to women. And they pretended it was about gaming and about being too woke, right? About social justice warriors and games. But it was really just an experiment in misogyny.
Yeah.
Can you pick random women and turn them into the enemy of men, right? That was the experiment. And lo and behold, they could.
Yeah.
So once they knew that, who is a very good woman to use that against? Hillary fucking Clinton,
Yeah.
right? So if you actually trace it and you look at the people who were at the core of this thing, in a group called, as I mentioned before, MAGA 3X. The documents that they wrote for themselves say, we learned how to do this in Gamergate. Hillary doesn't know how to do this.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to bring her down.
Oof. God.
And all of this stuff is historical and important, and I want more people to understand that red pill, and I'll land my plane. This is important because people think of red pill as just like, oh, you're now MAGA or whatever. Red pill was started on a board that was devoted to rape fantasies about women on Reddit. That's what it was. It was the one of the first sort of large incel boards where it was just a bunch of very angry men who were being ginned up by people who knew that what they were doing to express their hatred for women. That then grew into Gamergate through a variety of things and spawned what we see now. Pizzagate,
Wow.
it all comes from this poison tree.
It's all so horrible and cynical. And this is why I bring up one of the things that I really want people to grasp from our interview with Stephen Douglas, Decoding Trolls, is what we are experiencing is not random chaos. This is coordinated stuff. It's not that the world suddenly went mad. It's that people think about this narrative warfare, PhDs in think tanks in our country and throughout the world, on how it can make it seem like the world's going mad and make it in order to trash the World War II, post World War II order of liberal democracies, the progressive world. We're not going crazy. This is actually, we're actually experiencing intentional destruction of liberal democracies through narrative warfare, and in parts of the world, actual kinetic warfare. It's not random chaos.
Right. Well, the reason I brought up Harari's quote from before is these stories can turn into kinetic warfare real quick.
Yes.
Somebody. I mean, how many times has somebody gotten murdered because somebody told them a story? Hey, your husband cheated on you, right? And whether that story was true or not, somebody paid the price for that particular story, right?
Wow.
Stories can and do cause violence. Look at January 6th.
Well, yeah.
What was the fucking story, right? What was it called? We called it The Big Lie.
Yeah.
It was a story. It was a story about the Chinese, or maybe it was the French or the Italians.
Venezuelan.
No, maybe Venezuela. Somebody fucking attacked our voting systems, and Mike Flynn's gonna come and fix it for you. And if Mike Pence doesn't do his duty, then you need to come and be ready to die on January 6th. That's a story. That's a fucking hell of a story, right?
Yeah.
Enough people have been told enough stories for so fucking long
Yeah.
that they believed it because all their friends believed it. They wanted to believe it. It sounded amazing. It's going to be in the storm. We're going to get all the pedophiles. Let's do it. That's a story, right? And it's important that we understand that these things have consequences.
Yes. High five. Thank you, Jim.
This is a good spot for our next Stephen clip.
Oh, good.
In this, but there is an energy inside every meme, whether it's a book, a whole book, or a picture, or a sound, or your cat meowing at you because it wants food. There's an energy in there which is affecting your intentions, your mana, your energy. And so I try to see how is this all these the output from the from the fire hose. How is it? What's the energy in there, and how is it affecting my energy, my intention? Did I start reading this article thinking I've got to do everything I can to help Ukraine resist genocide? But then by the end of the article, I'm thinking, oh my God, Ukrainians, I should be paying my money to Navalny or to someone else.
The power of narrative. What's amazing is it makes me think about all the millions of books that I've read and stories that I have understood and reports I've read on how people were weaponized in World War II to believe their neighbors were vermin. And when Trump used that word vermin, when Trump, announced his, 2024 campaign at Waco, it's like, this is all so incredibly intentional. And
What? Sorry.
no, I was reflecting on an interview with a Nazi in his 90s who explained why he would gun down people, because in his mind, he was doing the right thing, because he was trained to believe that they were subhuman and they were vermin. And this is the othering. And that is why none of these words that Trump uses are cute to me. Never been a clown in my mind, always been very dangerous.
Yeah, that's one of the things I found really interesting. After talking to Stephen, and he goes into this this proto myth about Trito, right? And how Trito has to fight
Yes.
the dragon or the snake, and this is a very, very, very early myth, and Trump and his followers have cast themselves as Trito. They're the heroes. They're
They never
saving
lose.
America.
Never lose. Trito never loses, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, people have to realize that, America, democracy is Trito, and Trump and his ilk, and Putin and MBS and all of them,
Yeah.
Xi, that's the snake
That's
coming for
right.
us.
And they've got it backwards. That's absolutely 100% correct.
And Joe
Yeah,
Biden
I mean,
addressed that.
I also, I don't want to get too jingoistic about America, right? We're not the only country, the only civilization that deserves,
Oh no, of course.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not. I'm personally not a big fan of American exceptionalism. I
Of
think
course.
American exceptionalism
Our history
is
sucks, but we have the
is
potential
a
to be better.
Yeah.
Of course we do, and we
Yeah.
That's
will.
the whole
Look,
point.
I would not have. I would not be here with you people instead of something productive. if I if I wasn't optimistic, right? I believe in this country. I was cheerleading my fucking face off tonight,
Me too.
but I think our mistake is thinking that we deserve this, that it's our birthright or some shit
Mm-hmm.
to have this country, to have this freedom. It is not. It requires fucking work. And you know what? I'm sorry, but my generation's been lazy as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
We
They
have
didn't have
let
it hard enough.
the place go to shit, man.
Mhm.
Like, not that it was always so great. In the '60s were a fucking shit show, and we've had shit shows all the way along, but we haven't had people who just openly hate the country
Yeah.
in large numbers, and openly side with our enemies in 80 years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a long time.
Yeah.
This is the real deal. And to your point, Heidi, you're right. He is dangerous. He's not a clown. But the only reason he's not a clown is because he's got this ginormous psychological war machine behind it.
Yes.
If you let that, if they decide to cut him loose for whatever reason,
Yeah.
he's a clown. He is being pumped full of air by radicalizing people and literally making it impossible for them to think, to simply observe the pile of Adderall and bronzer and hatred and
Revenge.
stupidity, rape, misogyny, hatred, anti-Semitism, all the things,
Fraud.
broke, felon, all of it, right? You can't, that is pumped up with this constant, organized effort.
Yeah.
And I think, at some point, that the air is going to come out of that bubble. The danger is what's going to replace it.
Yeah.
That's because as I've
Nothing
said
good.
times, my concern is that we have focused all of our energy
Mm-hmm.
on this one pudgy, worthless bag of gravy, right?
The spectacle.
It-
We focused on the spectacle
we-
and the
yeah,
storyteller.
instead of the people telling the story,
Yeah.
right? Instead of the people holding the fire hose, right?
Yeah.
We're sticking our face in it, and we need to stop doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. What else we have, Hi-Fi?
Oh, we
There was
got
there
this.
was there was a short
I'm
clip
going
that
to
I
quote
gave you.
you. If you've ever wondered what you'd be doing before the Second World War, well, you're doing it now. And so many of us are doing our best to engage in mimetic battles. And we here are engaging in mimetic battles. But I think this is what you're doing in World War. If this were the run up to World War II, this is exactly what you're doing right now. And I think that, okay, I got like 3 more things, but I know probably Hi-Fi or Jim has something else. And lightning round.
How do we get the world to get off their butts and start treating this stuff as seriously as they should?
I work full time on it. I think all of us are trying our best. I mean, it goes back to this, just go back to the very beginning about the stealth genocide idea. So it's this idea that I was inside what I understand now was a stealth genocide. Russia was preparing the ground to teach and inculcate in Ukrainians in Russia-occupied Ukraine that they weren't Ukrainian, and preparing them to kill their fellow Ukrainians. And for the Russian, it doesn't matter who's killing whom. The point is to get rid of Ukrainians. And if I, as an internationally trained lawyer from the esteemed Cambridge University, who had studied the Holocaust and stuff, was inside this world for 7 years, and I didn't realize it, then I think that's a good little parable to say we've just got to keep what I call our incoming troll radar.
So dope. Incoming troll radar.
Troll,
So
it's,
good.
it's Trolldar for short.
Trolldar.
It is a word I've used many times.
Yeah. Incoming troll radar, also known as Trolldar. I'm looking for a Timothy Snyder quote because in 2014, because of disinfolklore, narrative warfare, Russia invaded Ukraine and the West was like unsure, oblivious to what was going on, and focused on other things. And I think by now, look, it's a decade later. Do we not understand this stuff now? I hope we do. I feel like yes, Jim.
I was just going to say, anytime you mentioned Crimea, I have to mention that the only reason Putin has Crimea is because Mike Flynn let him.
Yeah. I mean,
It's the same fucking people, is my point, right? It's just like all of these
Over and over and over, the
over,
same
over.
people: Roger Stone, Mike Flynn, Manafort. They even brought Brad Parscale back on.
Oh God. Well, I mean, again, you want to talk about mice. This is Tim Snyder. What Russia was able to prove was that, as a matter of fact, they could invade a country, make you think it didn't actually happen. They invaded Ukraine and basically persuaded people that it didn't happen back in 2014. We were all focused on their narrative warfare, and they totally had our minds in a trap. And we should have been paying attention then, and we should be paying attention now. We should have been paying attention in 2016 when they did it again and again. And I'm proud of my president and satisfied that he came out strong against Vladimir fucking Putin.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm happy about is he just seemed strong. He seemed like he was ready for a fight, which, honestly, that's what
That's what this is.
that's what this is. And there are a lot of things that are on my fucking wish list, that I need the president to talk about, and he will have to talk about eventually. But he done good.
Yeah, your letter today was amazing. What you had him say was like all the things that Hi-Fi just mentioned, the people that we need to deal with who are waging war on our country while making it look like they're the patriots. Back to dis and folklore. Yes, Hi-Fi.
All right, here's the last clip, but I think Joe gets the last word tonight.
Of
but
course.
Here's our last Steven clip, so let's talk about this real fast.
Okay.
Why has the globe not come to terms with this? Why aren't there not just federal regulations in each country, but international treaties about this sort of abuse of data, online mistreatment of the citizens of these countries?
I mean, it's making the world go crazy. These malign activities collectively is resulting in a world that's just going mad, in my opinion.
Well, one of the things I try to do, one of the modules underpinning dis and folklore, which comes from early on in my research, is what I call the Code of Positive Trolls. And I believed in it so much, I registered the trademark in the European Union in February 2020 for positive trolling and positive trolls. And basically, partly the answer to your question is there is no, most people not only do not have an evaluative framework with which to proof communications of any kind, because this is why I see it. It's between you and your cat, you and advertisers, you and your church, you and the president of the United States, or advertisers. So I see this continuity between it's about all communications. And if you have an evaluative framework, you can work out, well, is this positive, negative, or neutral trolling, basically. And that I've injected this module into dis and folklore, and this is really what distinguishes dis and folklore from counter dis and folklore. So, for instance, dis and folklore is trying to persuade you to do stuff which is contrary to the 6 elements in the Code of Positive Trolls. And the second element is ethical discipline. So it's trying to persuade you to advocate to breach the Refugee Convention. So for me, everything begins after the legal architecture which was established after the Second World War, human rights protected as a matter of law.
Thank you for running all of that. I know it was long, but what I really understood from him is we're not experiencing random chaos, and all the people that are creating it to appear that the world's going mad are literally just power hungry criminals. Like, it's just literally like they want power and they don't want us to have any. They want us, Jason Stanley said it, they want Americans to become peasants.
Yeah. They want us pissed off, poor, angry, and you know,
Sick,
desperate,
unvaccinated.
Sick.
sick. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
And you know what? That's why we fight, and that's why we try to defend our imperfect democracy.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it was. I admit I went into this evening with a little trepidation, you know,
Hmm.
but you know, fucking Joe's been getting underestimated for 50 years. You know,
And he's still
why
there.
stop? Why stop now?
He's still there. Yeah, he's still there.
So yeah, let's let him have the final word.
I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future. My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality, to respect everyone, to give everyone a fair shot, to give hate no safe harbor. Now, other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution, that's not me. I was born amid World War II, when America stood for the freedom of the world. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, among working-class people who built this country. I watched in horror as two of my heroes, like many of you did, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated. And their legacies inspired me to pursue a career in service. I left the law firm, became a public defender, because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard after Dr. King was assassinated because of the riots. And I became a county councilman almost by accident. I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running at age 29. Then vice president to our first black president. Now president to the first women vice president. In my career, I've been told I was too young. By the way, they didn't let me on the Senate elevators for votes sometimes. Not a joke. And I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic. I really am. I'm optimistic, Nancy. My fellow Americans, the issue facing our nation isn't how old we are. It's how old are our ideas. Hate, anger, revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas that only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away. I see a future where the middle class finally has a fair shot and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence. Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America.